stretching from the shores of the Mediterranean to the banks of the Indus River. One empire changed the course of human history through innovation rather than brutality. This is the story of the Persian Empire, the world's first true superpower, and perhaps history's most influential forgotten civilization, the ancient Iranian plateau. To understand the rise of the Persian Empire, we must first understand the world that preceded it. By the 7th century BCE, the Near East was dominated by four major powers: Egypt along the Nile, the Neo-Babylonian Empire in Mesopotamia, the Kingdom of Lydia in Asia Minor, and the Empire of the Medes in what is now Iran. The Iranian plateau had seen successive civilizations rise and fall. The Elamites established sophisticated kingdoms in southwestern Iran as early as 3200 BCE, developing advanced writing systems and monumental architecture that would later influence Persian styles. Around 1000 BCE, Indo-European-speaking peoples began migrating into the region from the Eurasian steppes. Among these were the Medes, who settled in northwestern Iran, and the Persians, who established themselves further south in the region of Persis, from which they would eventually take their name. By the mid-7th century BCE, the Medes had united into a powerful kingdom under King Xerxes. Working alongside the Babylonians, they overthrew the mighty Assyrian Empire in 612 BCE, dividing its territories between them. The Persians, meanwhile, remained a collection of semi-nomadic tribes, largely subject to Median rule. No one could have predicted that these subordinate cousins of the Medes would, within a generation, establish the largest empire the world had yet seen. Cyrus the Great, empire builder. Our story truly begins in 559 BCE, when a leader named Cyrus became king of Anshan, a small Persian kingdom subordinate to the Medes. Descended from the Achaemenid dynasty, Cyrus was both a brilliant military strategist and a political visionary. According to the Greek historian Herodotus, Cyrus revolted against his grandfather, the Median king Astyages, around 550 BCE. After a series of battles, Cyrus captured the Median capital of Ecbatana. Rather than destroying the Median power structure, he ingeniously merged the Persian and Median elites, presenting himself as the legitimate successor to the Median throne. With the resources of Media now at his disposal, Cyrus turned westward toward the wealthy kingdom of Lydia in Asia Minor, ruled by the legendary King Croesus, a man so wealthy his name became synonymous with riches. In 547 BCE, after a winter campaign that caught the Lydians by surprise, Cyrus defeated Croesus at the Battle of Thymbra through innovative cavalry tactics and psychological warfare. The fall of Sardis, the Lydian capital, brought the Persian Empire to the shores of the Aegean Sea and its first contact with the Greek city-states. But Cyrus's greatest triumph was yet to come. In 539 BCE, he set his sights on Babylon, the greatest city in the world, with its massive walls, hanging gardens, and ziggurat temples. The Neo-Babylonian Empire, ruled by King Nabonidus, was beset by internal religious conflicts and political instability. Rather than a long, bloody siege, Cyrus employed both military strategy and propaganda. His forces diverted the Euphrates River, allowing soldiers to enter the city through the riverbed. Meanwhile, he portrayed himself as a liberator sent by the Babylonian god Marduk to restore proper worship. Remarkably, Babylon fell with minimal bloodshed. This clay cylinder, known today as the Cyrus cylinder, records his extraordinary decree following the conquest. In it, Cyrus presents himself as chosen by Marduk to restore justice. He freed enslaved peoples, allowed religious freedom, and permitted the Jews to return to Jerusalem and rebuild their temple after decades of Babylonian captivity. The Bible portrays Cyrus in equally favorable terms, even calling him the Lord's anointed. In the book of Isaiah, the only non-Jewish ruler given this distinction. Some historians consider the Cyrus cylinder the world's first declaration of human rights, though others caution against applying modern concepts to ancient documents. What's undeniable is that Cyrus established a revolutionary model of empire. Rather than imposing Persian culture, religion, and governance on conquered peoples, he allowed them to maintain their customs, religions, and often their local rulers, as long as they acknowledged Persian authority and paid tribute. This unity in diversity approach created loyalty through respect rather than fear. By the time of his death, in 530 BCE, Cyrus had created an empire stretching from the Mediterranean to Central Asia. According to tradition, he died while campaigning against nomadic tribes in the northeast. His body was returned to his capital at Pasargadae, where his tomb, a simple structure compared to later Persian monuments, still stands today. The inscription reportedly, once adorning his tomb, read simply, "O man, whoever you are and wherever you come from, for I know you will come, I am Cyrus, who won the Persians their empire. Do not therefore begrudge me this bit of earth that covers my body." Cambyses and expansion into Africa. Cyrus was succeeded by his son Cambyses II, who continued the empire's expansion. In 525 BCE, Cambyses conquered Egypt, defeating Pharaoh Psamtik III at the Battle of Pelusium. According to Herodotus, Cambyses used psychological warfare by placing cats, animals sacred to Egyptians, in front of his army, making the Egyptians reluctant to fire arrows for fear of harming the animals. Like his father, Cambyses largely respected Egyptian religion and portrayed himself as a legitimate pharaoh. With Egypt's fall, the Persian Empire now encompassed all the major civilizations of the Near East and North Africa. Cambyses died in 522 BCE, while returning from Egypt, leading to a succession crisis and period of rebellions. From this chaos emerged one of history's great administrators, Darius I. Darius, the administrator. While Cyrus was the empire's founder, Darius I was its great organizer. After seizing power in 522 BCE, he spent his early years suppressing revolts across the empire. His triumph is recorded in the Behistun inscription, carved 300 feet up a cliff face in 3 languages. It served as the Rosetta Stone for deciphering cuneiform script. Darius divided the vast empire into 20 provinces called satrapies, each governed by a satrap or governor, usually a Persian noble loyal to the king. To prevent these governors from becoming too powerful, he instituted a system of checks and balances. Royal inspectors, known as the king's eyes and ears, traveled the provinces, reporting directly to Darius. To bind this massive territory together, Darius established the world's first true imperial highway system, the Royal Road, stretching nearly 1,700 miles from Sardis near the Aegean Sea to Susa, one of the imperial capitals. Along this road traveled the empire's sophisticated communication system, mounted couriers, that, according to the Greek historian Herodotus, neither snow nor rain, nor heat, nor darkness of night prevents from accomplishing their appointed course with utmost speed. Sound familiar? This Persian innovation inspired the motto of the United States Postal Service over 2,000 years later. Darius standardized imperial coinage with the introduction of the gold daric and silver shekel. He reformed taxation, establishing fixed tribute amounts for each province based on its resources and wealth. These administrative innovations allowed the empire to function efficiently, despite its unprecedented size and diversity. Darius's crowning architectural achievement was the construction of Persepolis, a magnificent ceremonial capital in the Persian heartland. Built on a massive platform carved into a mountainside, Persepolis featured the breathtaking Apadana Audience Hall, supported by 72 stone columns, each 66 feet high. The magnificent reliefs at Persepolis show delegates from 23 nations bringing gifts to the King of Kings during the annual New Year festival. a vivid illustration of Persian multiculturalism and imperial ideology. But the empire faced resistance on its western frontier. In 499 BCE, Greek cities in Ionia, Western Asia Minor, revolted against Persian rule with support from Athens. After suppressing this revolt, Darius launched a punitive expedition against mainland Greece in 490 BCE, culminating in a surprising defeat at the Battle of Marathon. Xerxes and the clash with Greece. Upon Darius's death in 486 BCE, his son Xerxes II inherited the throne and the unfinished business with Greece. Determined to succeed where his father had failed, Xerxes assembled what Herodotus described as the largest army ever witnessed, though his claim of millions is certainly exaggerated. In one of ancient history's most impressive engineering feats, Xerxes' engineers constructed 2 pontoon bridges across the Hellespont Strait, allowing his massive army to cross from Asia into Europe. When a storm destroyed the first attempt, Xerxes allegedly had the waters whipped as punishment, though this may be Greek propaganda. The campaign began with Persian victories. At Thermopylae in 480 BCE, Persian forces outflanked and defeated the famous last stand of 300 Spartans and their allies. Athens was captured and burned, but the tide turned at the naval battle of Salamis, where the numerically inferior Greek fleet defeated the Persian navy through superior tactics and knowledge of local waters. The following year, Persian forces suffered a decisive defeat at the Battle of Plataea. Though the Persian Empire remained intact and powerful, the limits of its westward expansion had been reached. These Persian-Greek conflicts would be immortalized in Western historical tradition, from Herodotus to modern films like 300, though often with heavy bias toward the Greek perspective. Empire at its height. Despite the setbacks in Greece, the Persian Empire remained the dominant power of the ancient world for nearly 2 centuries. At its height, under Darius and Xerxes, it stretched from the Indus Valley in modern Pakistan to Thrace in southeastern Europe, and from Central Asia to the First Cataract of the Nile. This vast territory contained an estimated 50 million people, approximately 44% of the world's population at that time. No empire since has governed such a large percentage of humanity under a single ruler. The empire thrived on its multicultural approach. While the imperial court maintained distinctly Persian traditions, local governance and customs were largely preserved. Official communications were conducted in Aramaic, the region's lingua franca, but the Persians allowed local languages to flourish and even adapted foreign writing systems for their own records. This diversity extended to the highest levels of government. Egyptians, Babylonians, Jews, and Greeks could all rise to prominent positions within the imperial administration based on merit and loyalty rather than ethnicity alone. Economically, the Persian Empire created unprecedented integration across Eurasia. Royal highways facilitated trade, while standardized coinage simplified transactions. Persian irrigation techniques increased agricultural productivity, supporting growing urban populations. Royal patronage of crafts created luxury industries whose products were prized from China to Europe. Although they practiced religious tolerance, the Persian elite increasingly followed Zoroastrianism, one of the world's first monotheistic religions. Founded by the prophet Zoroaster, or Zarathustra, Zoroastrianism emphasized the cosmic struggle between Ahura Mazda, truth and light, and Angra Mainyu, falsehood and darkness. Its concepts of heaven, hell, judgment day, free will, and messianic salvation would profoundly influence Judaism during the Babylonian exile, and later Christianity and Islam. The distinctive duality of good versus evil that permeates Western religious thought owes much to Zoroastrian theology. The Persians were master engineers and gardeners, creating elaborate paradise gardens that combined beauty with sophisticated hydraulic engineering. The very word paradise comes from the Old Persian paradaiza, meaning walled garden, These mathematical, ordered spaces, with their four-quadrant design, represented the Persian desire to bring harmony to nature and society. Persian engineers perfected the Qanat system, underground aqueducts that transported water from aquifers to settlements across arid regions. Some of these ingenious systems remain functional after 2,500 years, a testament to Persian technological sophistication. The immortals and military might. The Persian military combined forces from across the empire, but its elite core was the 10,000-strong unit known as the Immortals. This imperial guard earned its name because its numbers were always maintained exactly at 10,000. When one soldier fell, he was immediately replaced, making the unit appear immortal. Selected from Persian and Median nobility, the Immortals were distinguished by their elaborate uniforms, featuring gold pomegranates on their spear butts and golden apples on their spear shafts. They served as both the empire's elite fighting force and the king's personal bodyguard. The true strength of Persian armies lay in their diversity. Each province contributed troops with specialized skills. Scythian and Parthian horse archers, Egyptian marines, Greek hoplites, and Indian war elephants. This combined arms approach allowed Persian generals to adapt their tactics to different enemies and terrains. The Persian navy, comprised largely of Phoenician, Egyptian, and Ionian ships and sailors, dominated the eastern Mediterranean and Arabian Sea. This naval power secured trade routes and allowed for amphibious operations against coastal targets. Decline and fall. As often happens in history, the empire's strengths eventually became weaknesses. After Xerxes, court luxury bred corruption and intrigue. The infamous harem politics of the late Achaemenid period saw queens, concubines, and eunuchs wielding increasing power behind the throne. Xerxes was assassinated in 465 BCE, triggering a cycle of violent successions. His son, Artaxerxes I, faced revolts in Egypt and the East. Later rulers, Darius II, Artaxerxes II, and III, spent their reigns battling uprisings and internal power struggles. Heavy taxes and constant wars fueled rebellions, with Egypt breaking away repeatedly and Greek cities often rising with mainland support. Ironically, as Persia weakened, it relied more on Greek mercenaries, even against other Greeks, exposing its military secrets. By the time Darius III took the throne in 336 BCE, the empire was large but crumbling, plagued by corruption, disloyal governors, and military dependence. Persia's downfall came from Macedonia, a once marginal kingdom. Under Philip II and his son Alexander the Great, it rose as a military power. In 334 BCE, Alexander invaded Persia with 50,000 men. He defeated Darius III at Issus in 333 BCE, then secured the Mediterranean and Egypt. The decisive blow came at Gaugamela in 331 BCE, where Alexander's tactics shattered the Persian army. He soon captured Susa, Persepolis, and Ecbatana, seizing immense wealth. In 330 BCE, Persepolis was burned, either in revenge or drunken celebration, marking the symbolic end of the empire. Darius III was killed by his own satrap while fleeing. Alexander, claiming to be his rightful heir, honored him with a royal funeral, closing the chapter on the Achaemenid dynasty. Legacy and influence. But the fall of the Achaemenid dynasty did not mean the end of Persian civilization or influence. Alexander himself increasingly adopted Persian court practices, dress, and administrative systems. He took a Persian wife, Statera, daughter of Darius III, and encouraged his officers to marry Persian noblewomen, seeing himself not as a conqueror, but as a legitimate successor to the Persian throne. After Alexander's death in 323 BCE, his empire fragmented. The eastern portions, including Persia, fell to his general Seleucus, founding the Seleucid Empire that blended Greek and Persian elements. By the mid-3rd century BCE, Persia bounced back under the Parthians, fierce horse archers who gave even the Romans a hard time. But it was the Sassanid Empire, 224 to 651 CE, that truly brought back the Achaemenid glory, reviving ancient titles and royal imagery. Even after the Arab conquests and Islamization in the 7th century, Persian identity didn't vanish. Instead, it thrived. Persian court customs, art, and administration became models for Islamic caliphates. Farsi evolved into a major language of literature and governance across the Islamic world. Yet, the Persian legacy often gets overlooked in the West. Their bureaucratic systems, coinage, and idea of a divine king influenced empires from Rome to China. Their art, lions, trees of life, can be found from Europe to Asia. And yes, Persian women in ancient times, they could own property and wield real political power, something rare for that era. Even today, Iran's connection to its ancient past is strong. Nowruz, the Persian New Year, still celebrates those ancient Zoroastrian roots. Persia wasn't just an empire. It was a civilization that shaped the world. If you found that interesting, make sure to like, subscribe, and explore more hidden histories with us.